Hello, everyone. Welcome to part two of my Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 retrospective. In the previous video, we recreated my first flight I ever did in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Today, I'm going to concentrate on the airplane that to me meant the most, was the most fun, and probably the one that I never wanted to go away. And it's probably something most of you can predict. But before we actually get to that plane and actually take it for a little flight to kind of get in the mood, so to speak, is I just want to give you an idea of how many different airplanes that I've gone through for Flight Sim. Now, if you notice up here, you'll see I have 153 airplanes, and obviously there's variations of them if you couldn't understand that from looking at that. And the incredible thing is, every single one of the aircraft here I've featured in a video at some point. There is nothing in here, unless I'm absolutely forgetting something, that I did not do a video for. So every single one of these planes that you see going by, this represents my complete combined collection of all the stuff that I have done inside of Flight Simulator 2020. And it's like almost hard for me, and you can kind of hear it in my voice here, that I'm going through these in little bits of me is going, oh my gosh, the memories, the Palladius, we've got the F Strul, the F-16, the live streams. We have the airplanes that I flew like twice and I never flew them again, the ones that I love to fly in VR, the planes I love to kind of cruise around in and just sort of relax. And keep in mind, this isn't a complete collection. There's actually a lot of missing airplanes that when I did a transfer of hard drives, I actually lost, which was unfortunate. But it just gives you an idea of all these experiences that I've shared with everybody in the last 4 years. Now, when it comes to the aircraft that, like to me, like I said, it's the most special. It's the one I really love to fly. It's if they took all my airplanes away and I was left with one airplane, what aircraft would it be? You could probably guess. As if you expected it to be anything different. Yes, the DC-6 is an amazing aircraft. Yes, the 7.3, the 7.7, all of those are fabulous aircraft. The TPM 930, which I have so many hours in, not including the Cessna 172, which I have the most hours in by degree of significance. This would be the aircraft that I would pick, the one Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 airplane. And no, they're not giving me an endorsement for this or anything like that. I paid full price for this, just like everybody else did. And this is just like the most special. There's so many reasons for it. It's not just the systems, it's not just the appearance, it's just the idea of having this kind of slightly obscure airplane, which I've always had a soft spot for, as everybody's aware. Plus the depths and modeling and all the little systems details that really, really make me feel like I'm actually flying it. So when I think of the Beechcraft Duke 60, I just think of it's a different era. This was a generation when they were designing these airplanes for, these executives who basically needed to fly maybe a client, maybe their family over to like Martha's Vineyard or something like that. And, they kind of need kind of the basics. And I just love the details. I love the systems models. The good folks over at A2A created a beautiful Comanche as well that has all of this stuff too. But this one just puts a smile on my face, and I absolutely love it. I love just like the old school, kind of like that 1980s sort of 1970s feel. The fact that you can customize your electronics to be these ancient things, which, do these even work anymore? I mean, this is what I did my original flights on. It's the things that made the most difference to me. Like, this is what I grew up with, so to speak. All the new stuff is fabulous, and I love having like a G5 and like a GTN 750 and stuff like that, and the planes that I get to fly in the real world. But this is what I started with. It's just so special. And I remember, the first time coming in here, like trying to remember all the buttons and everything like that, going through all the different components and then like bringing up that little panel. You can see I've got all sorts of crazy stuff connected here. I'm trying to warm those engines up desperately right now to try to get everything going. Got the external heater here. I'll go ahead and kick the engine covers off. Hopefully they got warmed up enough. And it's just the idea that like you had to do all these different things to get this airplane like ready to go. It's just incredible to me. You have to kick the mixture up a little bit, sort of a thing like that. You had the two fuel boost pumps. You could actually hit both of those. You can do both of those at the same time. You don't have to do one at a time. But it was just so amazing. Like, the fuel, you can actually see all the vapor lock kind of built in there. And it just needs to kind of get a little bit of fuel in these things. And again, we're running the pre-oiler, just trying to get this thing. So, look how slow the oil is moving through the engine here. Oh boy, we can go get that other engine going again. Click that sucker on. We'll go get our cow flaps open and everything like that. Whoop, I hate it when I do that by accident. That's a silly button on my part. Everybody gets all boost pumped up, ready to go. And again, I could have boosted it much, much quicker had I basically sat there and kind of cranked up the RPM, but that's fine. So then you come over here, you go to click it, you go clear prop. We go take a look at the engine. Yeah, we got plenty going. And it would fight you, and it'd be grumpy, and it wouldn't want to fight, and you hear everything slowing down. and it just wouldn't catch, and it was just so satisfying, like watching the propeller bounce back and forth just like that, like it would in the real one. And then you come back to this other one, you realize you didn't put enough fuel in it, so you come in here like that, you give it the boost pump, and how everything was all detail, which I give a little more fuel here, just a little more fuel. There we go. That's plenty. That's plenty. I flooded it. Great. Now you have to crank it without this, but like you could flood it like I just did there, and then when you crank it, you watch how it starts to catch. It starts to catch. Come on. You're going to do it. There it goes. And then it would finally engage. I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's so not uncannily realistic, but it's just like what you would have to do in a real plane. Again, I'm being a little rough with this plane. I wouldn't normally be this rough with it, but it just gives you an idea of that just incredible level of detail with it. And again, the little sound effects and the fact the engine starts warming up is plenty right there. Go ahead now, crank that sucker. It should come up no problem this time. There it goes. See what I mean? Like, oh, got greedy. I'm being so rough with the start, I'm going to damage it. Oh my goodness, there it goes. That's incredible. And look at what color the starter is. Even my batteries died a little bit. Like, I love that. And just like those little details of trying to get those things going, get our master switch here, flip our inverter on. This thing is happily cooking away. You know, you'd switch underneath, and I've got button for cowl flaps that I could kind of close up. Like I said, it's a pretty cold day, and you'd float down here, and you'd turn on the heater, and then you'd set the temperature up a couple clicks, and now you could come in here and like settle these buttons, and the pitch trim had an actual switch, and like the cabin lights, and you have all these individual. Look at this! You could actually pull the circuit breakers out, and you've got the whole bus bar and everything. Everything warms up. It has a genuine. I'm saying genuine here. I know this sounds funny. It has a genuine. It's KLN 90 GPS here. I mean, this is the first GPS unit I ever used in the real world, and it's so fascinating to me that, like, you know, somebody took the time to, like, you know, I'm actually going to make this a thing. And there are other aircraft that obviously use this one as well, but just like for me, it's such a big deal that, you know, you can come in here 29. Oh, that's wrong. Clear. Got to go back to 29. It's actually 3004 today. 3004. Enter. Do you want to approve? I approve. Yes, I acknowledge. It goes bop, 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 bop. This is normally what it would do. But all that's all set there, and then you'd have to go through the whole engine warm-up process and like the way everything was modeled. And I loved how, you know, you could come over here, you could go through the different cylinders and everything like that. You go to cylinder 4, which is the guy who always sucks no matter what airplane you're flying, and like each cylinder has its own personality, and the temperatures would warm up differently. And I don't know, like for me as a real world pilot, of course I forgot the bacon light there, whatever. It was just so authentic, and it was just one of those things that it seemed very intuitive and very friendly to me, because it's what you deal with like on a normal basis kind of a deal, and I find that so fascinating. You know, all the different electrical systems are all kind of modeled. You can see the generator. I love how you can tap the glass if it gets cold in here, which it's absolutely frigid. Red 64 is 61. It's kind of cold in here, but it'll warm up in a few minutes, so I don't have to worry about it too much. If we want to get it warming real fast, though, we could actually... Oh, wrong one. Haha, that would be a bad thing. Is we can actually bypass the intercooler, which I just find so fascinating, because, you know, I can open up my little cabin display here, and you can actually see how I'm literally sucking heat out of the engine. It's basically cooking the entire front half of this, and like all the different temperatures, and I got the ram air. It's only 45 today. It's not that bad. But the fact that all of that is so smoothly and easily modeled, and it feels like what I actually want, makes such a difference to me as a pilot. So I'm going to stop gushing here, because I'm getting ridiculous, and I'm actually going to go do some flying. So, you know, I called air traffic control and everything like that. I could let them know that we're moving. I know you wouldn't do that. You'd ask them if it's okay to move. And then, of course, you got the nice rumblies here. One of the things you're probably going to say is, isn't there a turbine version of this airplane? And yeah, there's absolutely a turbine version of this airplane, and I have a lot of respect for the turbine version of this airplane. The propeller version, this is actually the weakest. This isn't even the Grand Duke. Notice it doesn't have the fancy winglets or anything like that. But I like this version because it just, I don't know, it's very raw, and it's very much of the era and everything like that. And I'm actually hurting my spark plugs right now because they didn't lean the mixture before ripping around. It's like, that's awesome. Like I said, I'll stop gushing. But and yes, I know there are other aircraft in flight sim that do this, but this is a twin and obnoxious, good-looking monstrosity, and that puts a smile on my face every time, even the turbine version. I really hope the wind's coming from this direction today, because it's going to be pretty embarrassing if it isn't. All right, let's go ahead and line ourselves up with this. It's just so easy to communicate with and so easy to fly this thing. All right, we're still warming up. We're at 252, which is actually plenty for us. That's delightful. So I like how you just come delete. Would you like go direct Orange County Regional? No, I don't. Of course, what do? I grab the wrong handle every time. All right, and I remember there is a keyboard button here. I got to remember where the keyboard button is. Ah, I did it again. Keyboard. You can come in here and actually, I know there's a method to do it, but I'd have to go find the button for it. I'm not going to stress about it. The key thing here is I can dial in my waypoint. There we go. So, you dial in your waypoint, you come up here, make sure it's in GPS. This literally has a V-lock, and it has an RNAV switch. This is one of the first aircraft I think I've ever operated in the game that has an actual RNAV system that works like an actual RNAV system. I find that, I don't know, again, for me, I'm gushing. That is just so awesome. Again, obscure, obnoxious systems are always my favorite thing here. Get those cowl flaps nice and wide open there. Give us a little bit of power and start making our way over to the runway. Love the turbochargers making the little whining noise. They're very unhappy with me at the moment, but that's perfectly fine. Couple taps there. Go ahead and squeeze the brakes as we line ourselves up here with the runway. A couple more of those. Go ahead and reset that. Let's go make sure one last check to make sure everything's ready to go. We'll go up pretty high today. 14, actually, we're going that way, so we're going to go 15. So that's all set. I'm going to run down here, and you can kind of change the modes. Got some MSG. MSG is delicious. 117. I'm going to come down here to 117. I like the fact that it's old school, where it doesn't do it for you. You have to actually dial it in just like that. I mean, like, this is just so cool. And the fact that they'd integrate this so smoothly like this, that, like, it just works. It just works. And I'll go put it to navigation 5, which is the correct navigation to go. Look at how tiny my airplane is. Awesome. All right, one last idiot check to make sure everything's okay. Temperatures are nominal. Fuel's good. Power is good. We're charging. The temperature in here is 67. Not bad. Let's go. Love it. You let both, see, like, both engines still come up at the same speed. There's the turbochargers. Get a little tiny bit of surge. Ah, it's so satisfying. You can hear the wheels spinning, getting faster. Ah, it's so good. So good. So as I was saying with my retrospective, I remember the first time flying this plane, as you can probably get a pretty good idea of from basically my gushing here, is just how, like, it felt right. Trying to get the engines to start, breaking them intentionally, being rough with them, and them actually behaving in a way that I am very familiar with in the real world. It's incredible, and it's an amazing experience, and it actually feels like you're flying something. A lot of the aircraft, unfortunately for flight sim, pretty much any flight sim since the beginning of flight sim, there's a certain kind of level of, well, we don't want to make it too complicated because, people want to just get in the plane and go. But the reality is that complicated, first of all, good developers will have it so you can switch that on and off. Let's be realistic. The other thing is when people have things like that, that's really what flying is about. The actual mechanical operation of an airplane, yeah, it's challenging, and like balancing the dynamics and forces of flight and squeaking those landings in and things like that really do matter. But also being able to operate the airplane and actually understanding the quirks of it is such a big part of what we do when we fly. You always think of, oh, that's a Piper thing, or oh, that's a Cessna thing, or that's a Beechcraft thing. All those different components, they're specific to that plane. And without those little tiny quirks, you're missing out on a lot of what makes flying fun. So in our final video, what we're going to do is we're going to visit a couple of the places that were iconic to me in my journey of Flight Sim 2020. And of course, when we get over to 2024, be sure to check those spots out again. Enjoy.